again. I'm back for another video. Where we last left off, we were playing a Yeek Berserker, and we just got into dearth after doing the Yeek starting zone. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go do the Gladiator event in dearth. It's always good to get it out of the way early on so we don't accidentally end up missing it. The quest becomes no longer available at level 11, so you really want to do it as soon as you can. If you wait too long, you'll miss it, and then that's 2 generic points you'll just never get on the character. With the huge amount of damage we're doing this early, it's not very hard, as you saw. The rush helps a lot, too. It's hard to say what to put our points into. We're probably going to want to put 10 points between these 2 talents eventually. Confusion immunity is actually a weakness of Berserkers. They tend to really fall apart when they're faced by confusion. So it's nice to get that early just from a racial talent in that amount. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna start maxing that. And we have a couple more generic points. We could start raising these talents, but it's not so much of a priority for me right now. I think I'm going to... I think I'll put those points into armor training. Actually, we'll put 1 into combat accuracy. And we'll put 1 point into War Shout just for that confusion AoE. We don't have to use Dominant Will as much now that we're higher level, and eventually we're going to get to the point, in fact we're probably already there, where we're not going to ever be able to successfully mind control anything because our willpower is just so low. So it's not really a great ability past the starting area, and it's not necessary anyway because our survivability and our damage are high enough now, independent of the ability, that we don't really need the auto kill on normal type enemies. Trollmire is where we pick up our escorts at as a Yeek, much like with every other off race except the 2 elf types. So we're going to keep an eye out here for any good escorts. And I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did with my dwarf, where I just never used any runes or anything. That ended up killing me, so what we're going to try and do is balance rune and infusion type abilities. If we get any early escorts that give us anything good from Betrayal, we'll utilize it, but otherwise I'm not going to worry about it too much and just try and go for a balanced approach. Berserkers can do well as anti-magic characters, and under normal circumstances I might try and go for it. But I felt like I really left out part of playing a successful character for new players in that last video, so in my first video series rather, and I'm going to try and be somewhat informative with this, if a little bit less, hand-holdy than I was in the first video. The Ghoul Arcane Blade was a nice diversion, but it's hard to learn how to play for something from somebody who doesn't really know how to play something, so... I'm glad I had such an early, or easy time, relatively speaking, in that Yeek starter area. I usually have a very difficult time getting through there alive. It's a little bit easier as a melee character once you actually know how to get through the zones. Spellcaster characters, especially ones who take HP penalties, just basically explode every time they take more than 2 damage, so it can actually be a little more difficult for caster characters. And when you look at a Yeek and you look at their racials, you're tempted to say, oh man, I should build like a Doomed or a Mindslayer. And then when you actually look at the HP totals of some of these casters, you realize that if you build one of those kind of characters, you might be successful, but you might also have a really hard time because your HP totals are going to be like 400, 500, 600 HP when you get to the East, and everybody else is running around with 1200 plus. Okay, we got him down and we're up another level. Get some more points into Berserker. I like to max it early on. I feel like it's not worth using until you max it, but when you do, it increases your accuracy, your physical power, and makes you nearly 65% stun resistant, and increases your pinning resistance as well. You don't want to get pinned down as a melee character pretty much ever, so wherever you can get pinning immunity, it's nice. It's hard to get it on gear in decent amounts, so when you can get it from an ability like this, that's incredible. Physical power is also really nice. You take a penalty to defense and armor, but at higher levels it's not going to matter so much. You're going to basically be drowning in armor and well past the point of diminishing returns. And of course, that physical armor and defense, you can really gauge when it's going to be useful to have it over when it's not. Like at some points later on where you're taking huge amounts of physical damage, you might consider turning it off. Especially if you have other sources of stun resistance. Alright, I think we're going to have a pretty easy time of dealing with Bill. I think I'll put on this massive armor we just found, and I'll equip Tooth of the Maw and our little glowing vial here. It was nice of procs to actually drop us nice items. And we found some gauntlets that'll increase our melee damage a little bit, and certainly do more than this Flame Rot will. I think we're good with everything else, though. Alright, just draw out the trolls. And there's Bill. Bill has always been stun susceptible, so if you have the ability to land a stun on him, he has pretty high saves, but if you can get the stun on him early, it basically makes the rest of the fight cake. He's still stunned. He died stunned. When he's stunned, he's just not very threatening. Drop we got off Bill is an immaterial sword, so let's take a look at that. We had this drop on our last Bulwark, but we never really looked at it because I wasn't going to end up using it. So the immaterial sword's nice. It's got pretty decent base damage, has armor penetration, physical crit on it. It does plus 10 arcane damage per swing, and it has quickness, which means it attacks 9 times, or excuse me, it attacks 11 times every 10 turns. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better than what we've got, though, because what we've got has such high base damage and also does slime, which is stunning effect occasionally when it procs. It's also got blind fight on. Let's try out the Spectral Blade and see if it's any different. I mean, at worst, it's probably going to be about the same damage. And almost nothing resists arcane damage. So when you can find sources of it, it's a very nice damage type to have. We didn't get a single escort that entire time. That's kind of disappointing. Did Bill level us up? I think he did. Yes, okay. Let's spend those points. And another point in Unity. I've already voted on Steam. If you guys are just starting the game and you haven't, voted on Steam, or you don't have a Steam account, consider getting a Steam account or considering opening up Steam and voting for it on Greenlight. Once Tales of Maj'Eyal is on Steam, it'll be a lot easier for darkgod to turn his attention to other things within the game. Like he's planning on some expansion campaigns with orcs or nagas and things like that. And the current version of the game is going to be one of the last major beta revisions before it gets to 1.0, which is what the Steam launch is going to be. I know we were pretty close the last time we checked, but or the last time darkgod, made a public announcement of it, which was a couple of months ago. But I'm thinking we'll probably end up being on Steam in the next few months, and I'm really looking forward to it. Well, that stunning blow did a lot of damage. Yeah, we don't seem to have taken any kind of a damage hit. don't have an amulet on anyway, so willpower is better than nothing at all. Oh, I accidentally switched my weapons. Okay. Now, the last boss of Core Pool is hard if you don't have stun immunity, but thankfully we have stun immunity through Berserker. And just like Bill, we'll want to keep him stunned the entire fight. And he's very easy if you can manage to do it. I love how fast Yeek characters level. That's what I hate about playing non-Yeek races or non-human races, is that the level speed is just so slow. But then when you play a Yeek, you're like level 16 when you finish all the starter zones. I get a point in that now. Unending Frenzy. Just give us a little more stamina when we kill things. Make it so we can use our stamina using abilities a little more freely. Don't think we're going to use any of these drops. We're just going to move on to the next floor. Alright. Okay, we have an alchemist as the first escort that we get. I don't think he's got much that we're going to want either way. So we might as well betray him. Get our spell saves up or some primary stat. Never get our magic high enough to use stone alchemy, so it's kind of a waste to even hold out for it. Let's see, dexterity or spell save? Well, we should have plenty of spell save. I'll just put that in dexterity. A little accuracy can't hurt. Might put points into it later on, too. We don't get an escort prompt right away, but there might still be one on the floor. So we'll clear the floor, and then move on to the next. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, I probably did, but just for the sake of repetition. If you clear a floor in a dungeon that you know can potentially have an escort, and it's a floor that has a lot of doors on it, make sure that you go back and try again. Because if the escort portal is behind a door, the escorts won't open doors at all. Their AI is set not to do so. So the escort simply won't spawn, and then when you come back the next time, the escort will be up. Like after you've cleared the floor. Which is nice because you don't have to bother escorting it, you can just sort of let them run to the portal. You know what, I'm gonna wear this hat. Deal 20 damage to people who hit you, sure. And it does extra damage on my melee swings, which is always a little nice bonus. A little magic cloak there is a little better than what we have. quest. So we're going with that dungeon as well, and we're going to wrap up this video here. Our next video we'll do the remainder newbie dungeons and try and start an old forest. Thanks for watching.